So, welcome to another episode of the Kelly Young Voter Report. I am here with Nimat from the, am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here with Nimat from the the Benicia Black Lives Matter chapter. Um, Nimat, would you like to tell us a bit about what the Benicia Black Lives Matter chapter has been doing recently? Just give a brief overview.
Sure. So I guess the biggest thing we've done is we submitted a resolution to the city of Benicia asking for them to do things such as hire an equity manager who can not only do an equity study through Benicia to find out the true condition of Black families and Black citizens of Benicia, find out what the condition is economically and health-wise and um, socially. Also we have a commission, we're getting a commission started with the city of Benicia to address any racial incident in Benicia. We're also planning a mural, an amazing mural that shows the lives of Black citizens of Benicia from the 1800s all the way up till today. We are working to um, enhance the school district curriculum from K through 12 with the true history of people of color that will benefit white students and students of color. And finally, what we're doing is we are addressing the situation with Solano County Sheriff's Department about officers there supporting and engaging in with militia groups that have been deemed national domestic terrorists.
Really, would you care to expand on this?
Yeah, so we came across some information that some Solano County sheriff officers or deputies had Facebook postings of like one of the sergeants had a Facebook posting of a piece of art that he made that was, I guess, a rifle rack that said, "We will not comply," and it was supporting the 3%ers. And then there was another deputy that had some sort of social media post about his support for the 3%ers. And so our thought about it was, if these officers are supporting the 3%ers and are basically promoting their support or engagement with the 3%ers, and the 3%ers are known to be, or militia groups in general, and known to be aligned with white supremacist groups and white supremacist ideology, and certainly are, they tried a lot of these militia were there trying to overthrow the government on January 6th, and certainly have a strong, to be put it mildly, a strong dislike for democracy and probably anybody who's a Democrat, much less a person of color. So why in the world, if I were living in an unincorporated part of Solano, why would I want one of these officers to show up at my house? And I'm a woman of color, number one. And number two, the way the Sheriff Ferreira makes it look is like you can leave your bias at home when you put on the uniform
Right.
and go to
And
work. I don't believe that. So and we're shocked about the lack of um, engagement from the board of supervisors themselves. I mean, we've asked, they have not responded to any of our communications. I think one of the board of supervisors responded, and she said, "Well, there's really not much we could do because the sheriff is an elected official." And
mhm,
so my thing is, okay, so there is a supervisor who was, I guess, appointed as the head of their equity commission or
mhm,
an equity group that's supposed to look into county equity issues. How come they haven't, voiced anything about what the sheriff's department, what the sheriff's office is doing,
mhm.
and the lack of action on this from the sheriff himself. So we just kind of want some answers there, and
Mhm.
we're not going to allow this just to be swept under the carpet.
Definitely. And it sounds like the sheriff's office has not been complying with requests for information or requests as far as information on the postings of the officers or their biases or anything like that. Doesn't
Well,
sound like.
yeah, the Sheriff Ferreira has responded, and basically his response is, I don't see any problem. I don't have any. None of my officers were at the January 6th incident,
Mhm,
and the FBI doesn't show any connection with my officers and the militias or anything like that.
mhm,
Okay. However, there's still the officers who have actually posted on Facebook um, making items that support or show an engagement with the militia.
mhm,
So to me, what the sheriff is saying doesn't make any sense.
mhm. I I see. Yeah, and that's very worrying because if they're willing to go out and post this on Facebook, right, then obviously it's not just like a implicit bias. It is a bias in which they are aware of, right? And I'd say even proud of to be going around posting this on Facebook.
Yeah, I think they're proud of it, and they certainly don't think there's anything wrong with it. And if their boss, if their sheriff doesn't think there's anything wrong with it, then they have no
Mhm,
reason to think there's
mhm,
anything wrong with it. And we've gotten a communication from the board of supervisors like, well, the sheriff is he's um, a voted in official, so there's nothing we could do. Well, then if there's no oversight at all, then
right.
basically we the people have to be um, the oversight,
Hmm.
because I don't know how appropriate it is just to have an office just do whatever they want to do, and it doesn't even
Right.
matter. So yeah, we're really concerned about that, and we're probably within the next couple of days we're going to put in a request to have this situation agenda put on the agenda as an item that can be spoken to.
Hmm. Um, put on the agenda of the
Oh,
sheriff's office.
so no, the Solano Board of Supervisors.
Ah, I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That seems very important that that is addressed
Right.
because especially if they're going around, posting it on Facebook, it would seem that not only are they um, carrying water for these groups. They're proud in doing so, you know. So who knows what other biases these people may have and how that may affect the policing of the Solano Sheriff's Office.
That's so good that you brought that up too, because if once people, uh, let's say there's other officers who fall into that category of, well, yeah, I support militia, or I'm part of the militia, or
Mhm.
even any white supremacist group,
Mhm.
they will look at what the sheriff, the Solano County sheriff is doing, and they'll think, well, you know, we have a right. We have a right to, it's our First Amendment right. We can be aligned with Proud Boys and 3%ers and Oath, was it the Oath Takers, and any other group. We can do that. And there's too much volatility right now with police in general, and
Right.
how the police, um, in their historic interaction with people of color, Black and brown people, and certainly brought out recently.
Mhm.
So if you've got these officers that feel like, well, I can do this, and there's no problem with it, then they will continue
Mhm.
to act in the like manner of oppressing Black and brown people, and of you know
Mhm.
killing us, and feel justified by it and feel supported by it.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah.
especially now with the almost sort of persecution complex that exists among a lot of law enforcement offices, right? It's almost made them feel empowered to commit these acts of violence, right?
Correct. Correct. Yes. And we have to, there's got to be somebody. I mean, I'm sure there are police, or law enforcement, I should say. There's law enforcement office, departments that are becoming aware of the problem of having all this authority and all this power and misusing it, and having members within their ranks who actually sympathize, empathize, support, or engage with white supremacist groups and militia groups,
Hmm.
or believe in that ideology. And they know that this is not, these two things don't mix. This is like oil and water. So some police, like for instance, Berkeley, the city of Berkeley,
Hmm.
and hopefully I'm hoping the city of Benicia,
Hmm.
um, will take, I think they're taking the steps to say, something needs to change here. We can't, this can't be business as usual. We have to vet out these officers who are like this. We have to look at what type of existing systems needs to be changed, even if it goes all the way back to um, who's going to be allowed to
Hmm.
be a cadet, a police cadet, or police
Right.
reserve, or who's going to be allowed to go to post training, and what is post training going to look like,
Hmm.
things of that nature. But if you have these types
Hmm.
of agencies, and the heads of agencies like the Solano County Sheriff, who is like, you know what, I'm going to turn a blind eye. I don't see any evil. I don't see
Hmm.
anything. Then things are going to remain the way they are, and the people who should not even be officers are going to feel empowered and emboldened to just
For
carry
sure.
on as
For
usual. Yeah,
certain.
yeah, and we can't let that happen.
Certainly not.
Mm-mm.
I guess since you mentioned Benicia, Mayor Steve Young has recently, along with City Manager Upson, has recently have recently announced that they are planning to uh, appoint or at least if it can make it through the City Council, they are planning to appoint a equity officer
Mhm.
at the city. Do you feel that that is a step in the right direction? And if there is anything else you would like to see done as far as the Benicia Police Department, what would that be?
I think it's absolutely a step in the right direction. It's one of the things that we asked for
Hmm.
in the resolution that was passed, the resolution 20.
Hmm.
It's a step in the right direction because with all with all the racism that exists in Benicia that a lot of people just are not willing to either talk about or look at or
For sure.
acknowledge. There needs to be someone that we as Black citizens can go to and say, look, I've experienced this racism, with, with uh, whatever it is, downtown, lack of Black businesses,
Downtown.
um, can't buy a house in Benicia. Oh, God, something happened that I feel is racist. It happened with the police. There,
Mhm.
even with some of the businesses downtown, um, there has been a couple of instances where Black citizens felt like they were treated um,
Mhm.
wrongly, and um, in the tone of racism. So there's got to be somebody from the city who can do something about this, and make awareness workshops and
Mhm.
make what do you call it, like procedures and policies and things like that, and just make it known that Benicia is not going to stand for um, racism, and is truly going to work on systemic racism and bias. And that's the one thing that I'm really proud about Benicia,
Mhm.
because Benicia is trying. That
Mhm.
I've had, we're working with the school district, we're working with the city government, we're working with a lot of citizens. We have that surge training where it's kind of like the white citizens learn more about bias, unconscious bias, conscious
Mhm.
bias, systemic racism, and white fragility, all these types of things.
Mhm.
And it is amazing how many Benicia citizens are actually um, uh, going to those trainings.
Mhm.
It's great. It's great. So I feel really good about what the city is doing as far as hiring the equity manager, and look forward to, and there's also going to be um, a commission
Mhm.
dedicated to equity. So it's just fantastic. I don't know that there's any city the size of Benicia that is engaging in
Mhm.
equity issues. Um, I'm just not aware of any other city the size of Benicia doing that.
So you would definitely say that Benicia as a whole is on the right track to addressing racial equity.
Absolutely. I think Benicia, there's so much work, there's so much more work to be done.
For sure. For
However,
sure.
this start is fantastic.
Mhm.
I'm gonna praise the school district, and I'm gonna praise the city government. I'm gonna
Mhm.
praise our amazing Mayor Steve Young, and I'm gonna praise even um, the even Elizabeth Patterson was very, very open to working diligently
Mhm.
on equity. And basically, Eric Upson has been great.
Mhm.
So we're now. Don't get me wrong. There are some people, in
Oh,
my
for
opinion,
certain.
there are some people, in my opinion, on the city council that need to become aware
Mhm.
of equity issues and stop throwing up, well, all lives matter. Well, we know all lives matter. Absolutely all lives matter. But if Black lives don't matter, then all lives are not
Don't
mattering.
matter.
You
Right.
know, it's easy to
If black
mouth
lives if black lives don't matter, then all lives don't matter, right?
it's exactly.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like what
I've
to
heard oh, sorry. I've heard people say that there's an implicit "to" at the end of Black Lives Matter, and I feel like that's a great way of saying it. Black Lives Matter too, right? Because, like we just said, if Black lives don't matter, then all lives are not mattering.
That's correct. That is correct. And like I said, it's so easy to blurt that out. Well, all lives matter. But where is the pause in the thought process where, two and two make four? So if you're saying, like you say, if all lives matter, but Black lives aren't mattering, what are you saying?
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
a way of shutting down, discussion.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we have a person or two on the city council that feels like that.
Mhm,
So, but I have faith. I have faith. I mean, this is for what we're starting here in the city of Benicia. I have every trust and faith that the truth will
mhm,
come out and people will allow
mhm,
themselves to embrace the truth
mhm,
and stop hiding behind, oh, Black Lives Matter is a militant terrorist group, and it's a anarchist and burning down cities and everything. Because I can honestly say that I haven't heard, number one, with everything that's transpired in the last 4 years or something, I
mhm.
have not heard the United States deem Black Lives Matter as a domestic terrorist group.
Right.
So there's that. And I know for a fact we had probably about 500 people, 500 or 600 people marching up J Street
Mhm.
in Benicia. I think was it last year in the summer for a peaceful march and protest, and not one thing got burnt
Right.
or damaged or anything like that. Um, and it's interesting because we were asked by Black Lives Matter. We worked with the police to
Mhm.
um,
Coordinate.
to coordinate the march, and it was interesting that we were asked not to go up First Street because the merchants are scared and they're boarding up their windows and da 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 da. So we were initially put on this little narrow K Street, and we were like, nah, we're not gonna. We don't have to go up First Street, but we're not gonna be on some, on a
Some
small
sites.
side street, right? So we marched up J Street,
Mm,
and it was fine. It was nothing went wrong.
mhm.
However, a few months after that, I noticed that there was another march going up and down First Street, and it was called I think it was called Support the Blue, and it
Mm,
was Trump flags and
mhm,
a bunch of white people and marching up, and I was like, wait a minute, where's the ask or the request
mm.
of them not to march up and down First Street?
Yeah,
So
I
when I
guess.
talked, yeah, right. So I talked to the police, and they were like, "Oh, well, we asked them not to march down First Street, and they just did it anyway." So it's
Mhm.
kind of like, see, you guys were the good guys because you guys listened to us, but they didn't listen to us. But here's the thing: they not only did they not listen to you, but y'all marched. There were some officers walking with them.
Right, right.
So like I said, racism is alive and well.
Indeed, indeed. As I'm sure many people have seen just in this town, for sure. And I guess one last question. Now obviously I'm sure you're aware the Georgia State Legislature and the governor of Georgia just signed a bill um basically codifying voter suppression into law, doing things such as making it legal or illegal, sorry, to hand out food to people in line for polls, right? Making it harder to vote, right? Making it so that the state government can dictate how many polling places there are, right, in a specific county, right? And obviously, all of this is target. Oh, and then there's also reducing the amount of ballot drop boxes, right? I mean, if I sat here saying everything that was in the bill, right, we'd be here all day. But basically, I wanted to ask, how can someone in California help, right? If you have any ideas with basically fighting these laws in these states that um, uh, codify voter suppression. Is there any organizations you recommend? Any volunteer work that can be done? Phone banking?
Yes, all the above, actually.
Hmm.
Um, so just when they were having the two senators run from Georgia, the first thing I did was, where can I send my money?
Hmm.
Where can I send funds?
Hmm.
And then I would, because if people keep their eyes open, they're going to start seeing, especially if they're on social media, they're going to start seeing organizations and groups come together that are going to be that are going to do specific things
Hmm.
regarding this travesty in Georgia,
Hmm.
and they're going to be asking. They will reach out for people to do phone banks and people to send money and
Hmm.
things of that nature. So that's exactly what I would do. Absolutely, and I would even um, contact Stacey Abrams' office
Hmm.
or any group that's affiliated with Stacey Abrams and just say, how can I help?
Hmm.
Absolutely. How can I help? Because this is bringing Jim Crow back.
Indeed.
And these people, I mean, it's so interesting that uh, Governor Brian Kemp read the racist read what people were saying about how racist this was, this bill he was signing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, they're saying that I'm bringing back Jim Crow, and they're saying I'm setting back voting 50 years, and da da da. But it's like, and yet you still sign it, and yet you
Right. And then did
still
you see
sign it.
that the congresswoman who was trying to
Yes,
ask Mr. Kemp about it was hauled off? A congresswoman, right, in a government office was hauled off by police, right?
correct. And the thing is I understand that those alt-right or Republicans or you know uh, unsettled white folks, they are livid. They are livid that
Hmm.
Georgia turned blue. Livid that Biden won. That they were one of the deciding reasons why Biden won. Livid that we got two senators, Democratic senators, out of there.
Hmm.
So they are mad as wet hornets. But the problem is they think that based on their anger that they can bring Jim Crow back, that they
Right.
could turn the clock back and take away our voting rights that we have fought so hard to get. And they think we're going to just stand by and allow that to happen.
No.
See, they don't know. They obviously do not know us.
Right.
They do not know us as Black people. They
Hmm.
do not know our white allies.
Hmm.
They're totally underestimating us.
Well, and not only that, I think this whole thing about fraud, it sort of speaks to sort of how Republicans view voting, or not necessarily all Republicans, but definitely a very large portion of the Republican Party believes that it should only be, white landowners who should be able to vote, right? And this whole thing about voter fraud is that when, Generation Z and young people vote in the largest numbers ever seen in any recorded presidential election, right? When black people in Georgia send two Democratic senators to Washington, right? All of a sudden, right? Wait, this isn't supposed to be happening, right? It can't be that our policies are unpopular, right? It's got to be voter fraud, right? They
Exactly.
can't win based off policy. It's got is so obviously it's got to be the voter fraud, right?
I love how you put that. I absolutely love how you put
Mhm.
that. And see, they found a savior in Donald Trump who will flip the script and say,
Right,
"Oh no, you know what? The sky isn't blue. The sky is pink." And they'll be like, "Whoa, okay, all right." So it's like, yeah, anything that doesn't go by what we want it to go by, even if it's the correct system and everything happened correctly, hey, if we
right,
don't like it, we're going to call it fraud. We're going to demonize it,
right,
period. And they have done that to Black people. They have done that to Black people who have stood up against police
right,
brutality. They have done that against the voting that was done perfectly correct. I
right.
mean, honestly, and I know that if even a smidgen of the fraud happened that they are saying happened, it would have been shut down immediately.
Well, not only do we know that, Sidney Powell, one of the attorneys who was trying to overturn the election results, just admitted in court, right, that no rational person would believe that there was voter fraud, right? Because they're getting sued now.
Yeah, yeah, 1.6 billion, love and life. Or no, that's Fox News, but still along the
Yeah,
same vein.
yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
But see, here it is. Like I think Malcolm X said, the chickens are coming to roost.
Right.
Um, it's, you can play this game of, I'm the victim. And since I'm the victim, I'm going to, make all this preposterous stuff happen. And
Mhm.
I'm going to call it blah. But then when a whole new administration comes in, that's not going, now the CIA, FBI, and everybody else you oppress is going to speak up. And everything that you did at the Capitol and why the National Guard didn't come out as soon as they were supposed. That's all going to be
Right,
uncovered.
right,
Everything that you said was pink is now going to be shown as blue. Now Dr. Fauci doesn't have to be quiet.
right.
So yeah, it's a whole we're getting back to normalcy in in a way. However, in getting back to normalcy,
We can't become complacent.
right, and we can't become complacent because again, things such as systemic racism still exists.
Right.
Even though
Are
the
still unquote normal.
exactly, it's normal. You're right. There's still people in Benicia who say to me, there's no racism and there's no systemic racism in Benicia. Even they have come to me and said, "You, why are you bringing dissension to Benicia with this Black
Right,
Lives Matter?" That's
right,
so. Yeah, there's still a lot of work, even though the wool has been taken off of everyone's eyes
right. For
with this
sure.
new administration. There's still a lot of work to be done.
For sure. For sure. Well, Namat, thank you for coming on. You've
It's
been a
my
great
pleasure.
guest. And thank you. This has been another episode of the Kelly Young Voter Report.
Thank you.